All right, so let's go over the system for Sunday. And I just want to preface this. It is an extremely interesting setup, and all the trends need to be watched very closely at this point. It is one of those setups that just a small difference in the upper levels, and I mean a small difference, can make the difference between a substantial snow for some along the East Coast, especially eastern New England and possibly even eastern North Carolina, to zero snow, no snow at all along the East Coast, and everything remains offshore. So if you live east of the I-95, especially eastern North Carolina and eastern New England, you need to keep your guard up with this one. Snow could graze the coast during the day on Sunday, and models, I'm gonna say this now, models have shifted slightly westward during the overnight model runs, and this trend needs to be watched closely. So let's dive right into the models. I want to show you what both the GFS and the Euro are saying as of right now. So here's the GFS. This is the piece of energy that we're going to be watching right here. I'm circling it with my cursor. This is going to be diving down through the central United States. It's going to round the base of the trough. It's going to go right along the Gulf Coast here. And where this goes is going to be heavily dependent on the speed at which this northern piece of the trough moves, and also the tilt of the trough. And right now we have a neutrally tilted trough, and the flow is out of the southwest. So that would guide the storm more to the east, out to sea like that. But then look at this. I want to show you what the recent run shows. It's very interesting. Look at that. You start to get a negative tilt, and the energy is stronger than what it was showing even yesterday around this time. Energy stronger, and you start to get a negative tilt. That's going to bring the flow more out of the south and southeast, which can allow the storm to go up and along the coast closer. Not exactly right up and along the coast, because the frontal boundary is still positioned further offshore, but you're going to get that backing flow, and that can throw that precipitation back onto the cold side and produce more snow. And then look at this. It goes negative up here around New England. And that's why I want to show you what it looks like at the surface here. But the surface is showing more snow for portions of the East Coast. And the GFS, I think, is overdoing it a little bit. I want to show you. I'm going to back this up here. Let's actually zoom in. I'm going to zoom in. Here's the storm coming up. Look at that. Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, into Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and also into Maine. Eastern New England is where I think the main threat is, but also eastern North Carolina. But eastern New England, I really think that you guys are still in the zone potentially for some snow, some substantial snow potentially. That's where the main threat is at this point, is up in eastern New England. It's all going to be dependent on the speed at which that northern piece moves. If it moves faster, energy gets pushed more out to sea. It doesn't come northward as much. Storm is offshore. If it moves slower, which in this most recent run, it's showing it's moving a bit slower, allows the energy to come north. You get a negative tilt. You get that backing flow, bringing that precipitation back into the cold air, and it also guides that surface storm up to the north and more closer to the coast, and brings snow further inland rather than keeping it all offshore. European, same deal, not as close. That's why I think the GFS is still overdoing it slightly, but it has the right idea, I think. I think it has the right idea. Let me show you what the European is showing. I'm going to move back out and show you the upper levels first. Here's our energy diving down south through the central United States. And then let's move this along. Here the energy comes along the Gulf Coast. Trough begins right now. This is what you would call a positively tilted trough. The trough axis is from the northeast to the southwest. But look at this. It becomes neutral. Here, just almost negative right around here. And the speed at which the northern piece moves is slightly slower than the previous runs. And then look at this. It's hard to say. I'd say it's slightly negative. Let's move it back. Let's move it back real quick. Neutral trough right around here, and then it becomes slightly negative, ever so slightly negative, and then that will help guide this storm more north and bring that flow, that precipitation, back into the cold air and potentially bring some snow to eastern New England. Look at that. It's a negatively tilted trough. Not super negative, but it's negative enough that I think that eastern New England stands the chance to get some snow out of this. Now I want to show you what it looks like at the surface because it's not as intense as what the GFS is showing. And let me pull this up here. I'll zoom in a second, but we're going to look at this. So you still, like I said, you still get possibly some snow in the south. I don't think it's going to be a lot, but you might get some. Rain changes to snow. You might get some wet flakes mixing in. Not really going to accumulate much, if any, in most places. But you might get some snowflakes in northern Florida and possibly into Georgia and then South Carolina and possibly even into eastern North Carolina. But look in eastern New England. Now this, like I said, it's not as intense as what the GFS was showing, but you still get some snow clipping eastern New England on Sunday, through the day on Sunday evening. Look at this. Connecticut, Rhode Island, into Massachusetts, into New Hampshire, and into Maine. You get a period of snow because the low pressure rides closer to the coast because of the tilt of the trough and the way that the northern piece kind of slows down a little bit. I don't think it's going to be a lot of snow. I think the European is more on point in terms of how much snow is potential. But let's look at the snowfall potential for up in New England with this storm. A few inches of snow. I still think that the GFS is overdoing it. Look what the GFS brings. GFS brings it's substantial snow. I mean, like a region of 6 to 12, maybe in Cape Cod. But I do, like I said, I think that the GFS is overdoing it slightly. But I think it has the right idea. I think that the northern piece moves a little bit slower, and I think the energy is able to go a little bit north and just north enough where it might clip eastern New England with a few inches of snow, a brief period of snow, not a lot. See what happens. Let's pay attention to the models throughout the day. Going to watch the trends closely. But I do think that eastern New England has the potential at getting some snow out of this. I really do think it's overdoing it for further south, especially over New Jersey and into Virginia, into Delaware. I don't think they're still in the threat zone east of the I-95, still in the threat zone. But I think that the GFS is a little bit too west with the storm track. I think it's going to be further east. But we'll have to see. We'll have to watch the trends really closely over the next few hours.